Behind a stack of wet and dusty cardboard boxes, a small kitten lay weak and trembling. Its body was filthy, tiny wounds scattered across its legs, and its fur, once soft perhaps, was now tangled like the forgotten fragments of a long, cold night. In the midst of the rush of people passing by without a second glance, it could only meow softly, a sound nearly drowned out by the roar of a city that never cared. Its half-open eyes trembled, as if every blink was a battle to remain conscious. Its breaths were short and broken, as though the world was holding back the air its fragile lungs needed. It wanted to stand, to walk, to seek warmth, but its body no longer obeyed. Every small movement turned into pain that forced it back down. Rain began to fall, light at first, then heavier. The cold drops landed on its wounds, making the little body shiver uncontrollably. The cardboard beneath it softened, soaking up the rain, letting the cold creep slowly into its bones. It lowered its head as if trying to hide from a world that kept hurting it, but there was nowhere left to hide. No embrace, no warm body to curl against like when its mother was still around. In the darkness of the rain, it remembered something, a gentle memory that now felt impossibly distant. It remembered how its mother used to lick its fur with patience, remembered the soft purrs that lulled it to sleep, remembered the warmth that once made the world feel safe. But all of that was now only a fading shadow behind the cold that kept sinking in deeper. It meowed once more in a sound no louder than a whisper, as if it were saying, "I'm here, like please don't let me disappear." But no one heard. Time passed and its body grew weaker. Its eyes closed again, this time for longer. There was a moment when it nearly gave up, when its breath stopped for a second, when the silence stretched too long. The world seemed to slowly fade, like a lamp dimming at the end of the night. But suddenly, footsteps stopped in front of it. Someone crouched down. A warm breath drifted over the tiny, trembling body. And then, that voice, a human voice, soft, shaking, full of compassion. "Oh God, you're so small. What happened to you?" The little cat tried to open its eyes. One eyelid lifted slightly, just enough to see the figure now looking at it with teary eyes. Warm hands lifted its body carefully, as if afraid to damage the fragile frame that was barely holding together. A jacket was opened, and the tiny body was wrapped inside it. That warmth, the warmth it had lost long ago, returned, enveloping its trembling form. It shivered, not from the cold, but from the shock of feeling something it had almost forgotten: care. "Stay with me, okay? Don't sleep. I'll take you to the vet." On the way, the kitten nearly fainted several times. The world around it blurred, melting into a single streak of moving light. But each time its breath faltered, the human's hand stroked its head gently, calling it back, asking it to stay awake. On the vet's table, the small body was examined. The doctor shook their head slowly. "He's very weak, but we can still try." A needle was inserted, bandages wrapped, wounds cleaned. The little cat cried silently. But for the first time, that pain brought hope instead of fear. Days passed and its wounds began to heal. It started eating little by little. Its once dim eyes slowly grew brighter, and every time its rescuer arrived, the kitten tried to stand, even though its legs were still shaky. One morning, when the sunlight touched its face, it purred for the first time since it got lost. The sound was soft, trembling, full of gratitude, like it wanted to say, "Thank you for not passing by like the others." A few weeks later, it went home to a new place, a home with a tiny bed, a bowl of warm food, and hands always ready to hold it close. The body once covered in dust and wounds was now clean, soft, and healthy. It was no longer afraid of the dark, no longer afraid of the rain, no longer alone, because it had found something it once thought was lost forever: a home, warmth, and someone who chose to care.